20th Independent Field Battery. Attention! 20th Independent Field Battery. One pace, backwards, march. Right, dress. Eyes front. Stand at ease.
There he comes.
Battery.
Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see such a large crowd here today on Remembrance Day, and we're all thankful for the beautiful weather. My name is Matthew McHugh, and I am a former reserve officer with the 20th Independent Field Battery here in Lethbridge. On behalf of the 20th Independent Field Battery and the Lethbridge Remembrance Day Committee, I would like to welcome you this morning to our Remembrance Day service. Thank you all for being here. It is an honor and a privilege to be your MC today. Before we begin this morning's program, I would like to ask that you please ensure that your cell phones are turned off or on mute. Thank you. To start our program, and in the spirit of reconciliation, the members of the Lethbridge Remembrance Day Committee and the Canadian Armed Forces acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Indigenous peoples of the Treaty 7 region and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada. This land holds a history of resilience, culture, and community. And on this day of reflection, as we move forward together, I encourage each of us to consider our own personal connection to this land and how we can contribute to a future that honors these histories and the responsibilities we all share. I would also like to mention that today's ceremony will be conducted primarily by members of the 20th Independent Field Battery. Because there are 2 concurrent ceremonies again this year, most of our veterans, dignitaries, and youth are at the exhibition park for the indoor ceremony. With that said, I would like to welcome all of you here today in front of the Cenotaph. And we thank you for being here to remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. There were many soldiers who did not return from war, and today we are here to remember them. We are also here to remember the veterans who did return, who may or may not be with us today. There are 2 main symbols that we associate with Remembrance Day: the poppy and the cenotaph. The poppy, which we wear in November, is a symbol made popular by the famous poem In Flanders Fields, written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. John McCrae was a gunner in the Royal Canadian Artillery, as are many of the soldiers and veterans of our unit who are here today. In April 1915, John McCrae was in the trenches near Ypres, Belgium. The day before he wrote his famous poem, one of McCrae's closest friends was killed in the fighting and buried in a makeshift grave with a simple wooden cross. Wild poppies were already beginning to bloom between the crosses, marking the many graves. Unable to help his friend or any of the others who had died, John McCrae gave them a voice through his poem. McCrae's poem, In Flanders Fields, resulted in the Remembrance poppy becoming one of the world's most recognized memorial symbols for soldiers who have died in conflict. Initially, Remembrance Day was called Poppy Day, as the poppy became a symbol of remembrance and hope, including hope for a positive future and a peaceful world. We thank you for wearing a poppy. John McCrae died on January 28, 1918. Like so many Canadian soldiers, he did not come home. He is buried in France. This leads us to our second symbol of Remembrance Day, the cenotaph. The cenotaph is a monument erected in honor of a person or group of people whose remains are elsewhere. Following the First World War, most Canadian families were unable to travel to places like France, and so cenotaphs, like ours here in Lethbridge, were built across Canada in towns and cities to commemorate the over 53,000 Canadian soldiers who were killed in action and whose remains were never found or never returned to Canada. At the cenotaph, we stand guard by way of vigil. This tradition dates back to early societies when a warrior would be buried with his sword, shield, and other important possessions. 4 knights would then stand guard at the 4 corners of the coffin to safeguard the body and these possessions until funeral rites could be completed. For many Canadian families, no funeral rites could be completed for their loved ones lost on the battlefields of the First World War. So each year, on Remembrance Day, we gather in front of the cenotaph to stand guard for our lost warriors whose funeral rites were never completed. On November 11th, 1918, the armistice was signed to end what was known as the War to End All Wars. Since that day, many Allied countries have recognized the sacrifices made by their veterans in that war and all wars since then by observing a symbolic ceremony in front of the cenotaph, which involves the last post, 2 minutes of silence, the lament, and the ruse. The last post is played to summon the spirits of the fallen to the cenotaph. It was originally played to signal to soldiers that the camp was secure for the night. It was also played to call out to wounded or separated soldiers at the end of a battle in order to guide them home to safety and to rest. Today, it signifies that a soldier's last century duty is finished. He or she has died, and we are calling home the spirits of the fallen to rest. The 2 minutes of silence are observed each year on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Canadians across the country and people around the world pause for these 2 minutes of silence to honor, thank, and remember the fallen. The first minute of silence is for those who died in the war. The second minute of silence is for those left behind who were deeply affected by the conflict. This sacred moment of silence also symbolizes all of us as a nation, as Canadians, standing as sentry in silence so our fallen soldiers may rest for those 2 minutes. The lament is played by the bagpiper. It is an expression of grief and mourning. Historically, it symbolizes the sounds of spouses and children crying over their dead. Today, it symbolizes our collective sorrow. The ruse, or reveille, is played following the lament. The ruse was originally used to wake up soldiers each morning. In this ceremony, the ruse is used to wake our fallen soldiers from death and help them rise above their mortal duties on earth so they may rest in peace. We will now start our vigil ceremony.
Battery, attention!
Vigil commander, mount! Vigil!
Attention! Quick march! Vigil. Halt. Right turn. Take post. Present arms. Rest on arms, reverse.
I would now like to invite Tony Zappone to sing O Canada.
O Canada, a home and native land, True patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Trumpeter, last post. I will now read the Act of Remembrance. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them. I would now like to invite our senior military representatives, Lieutenant Colonel Cole McGregor, Commanding Officer of 429 Transport Squadron, and Chief Warrant Officer for 429 Transport Squadron, Chief Warrant Officer Nevin Surratt, to lay a wreath for all serving military and veterans. Sir?
Battery. Stand at east.
I would now like to invite our Honorary Lieutenant Colonel Dory Rossiter and our 20th Independent Field Battery Commanding Officer Mitch Montminy to lay a wreath on behalf of all of the citizens of Lethbridge. Sir, ma'am. I would now like to invite our unit Padre, Captain Luke Watson, to read In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place. And in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If we break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, Padre. Our fly past of the C-17 Globemaster today was compliments of the Royal Canadian Air Force 429 Transport Squadron. As many of you already know, the Royal Canadian Air Force is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. And it is my pleasure to invite our senior military representative, Lieutenant Colonel Cole McGregor, commanding officer of 429 Transport Squadron, to say a few words on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces. Sir?
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, citizens of Lethbridge, it is truly an honor to stand before you today on this solemn occasion as a representative of the Canadian Armed Forces, the Royal Canadian Air Force, and as a friend of Lethbridge. Today we gather to remember, to reflect, and to express gratitude. We remember those who fought for freedom, those who, through their courage, shaped the world we live in today. For many of us, this day is a personal one, as we honor the memories of fathers and grandfathers, brothers, of mothers, grandmothers, and sisters, and of sons and daughters. It's a solemn day, but also an opportunity for all Canadians to come together, united by our shared history and the profound responsibility to never forget the cost of peace. As a pilot in the Royal Canadian Air Force, I've had the privilege to serve Canada here at home and all around the world, and that experience has taught me two important lessons. I'm especially mindful of those today. The first is that as Canadians, we are extremely fortunate to know what it means to live peacefully, to have opportunity, to have community. This is not a global condition. And the second lesson is that peace is not as guaranteed as it may seem. The peace we know today required immense courage and sacrifice to create, and continues to require courage and sacrifice to maintain. I've had the honor to serve Canada alongside men and women who have dedicated their lives to protecting this country and its values. But I stand here today to honor those who came before us, the brave souls who flew before I flew, who risked everything to give me an opportunity. They are the ones who gave us the gift of peace, the ones we remember today. Imagine the courage it takes to climb into a Halifax or a Lancaster or a Wellington bomber, knowing you may not return. Watching the ground fall away from you as you climb to the skies above, and to wonder if you'll ever see that ground again. Imagine the courage it takes to run towards an enemy who's firing at you, to leave a protected area and run towards danger, run towards fear, run towards pain. Imagine the courage it takes to sail into the open sea knowing an enemy is lurking beneath, knowing you have no lifeline, knowing you are vulnerable and alone. Canadians fought. Canadians flew. Canadians sailed. And Canadians sacrificed. They ran towards fear, climbed away from safety, sailed past security, so we might live in a world with peace, might have the opportunity, might find hope. That sort of courage is almost unimaginable. But today, we must try to imagine. As we stand here on this beautiful November morning, I ask you to take a moment to reflect, to think of the sacrifices made, the courage shown, the duty fulfilled by those who have served Canada. Remember that their efforts were not for recognition or reward, but for you and I, for a chance to give us peace. It's easy to forget in our busy lives the cost of that peace, but we must never allow ourselves to forget the debt we owe to those who fought for it. When we stand in silence on Remembrance Day, we honor not just their memory, but also their legacy. a legacy that continues to define our lives in Canada, our opportunities. Let us remember also the families of those who served, especially of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. They too endured hardship, showed courage, made sacrifices. We owe them a debt of gratitude as well. We remember them as well today. Peace is never a guarantee. It is something that must be protected, that must be preserved. It requires our constant attention. And as Canadians, it's our duty to ensure that that sacrifice made by so many before us will never be forgotten, and that the freedoms they fought for are passed on to future generations. It's our duty as Canadians to remember. Thank you for your presence here today, for your respect, for your commitment to remembering those who gave everything for our tomorrow, lest we forget.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Tony Zappone to sing the Royal Anthem, God Save the King.
Battery. Attention.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Vigil Commander, dismount, vigil.
Vigil. Present arms. Shoulder arms. Inward turn. Quick march.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our formal ceremony today. Once again, we thank you very much for attending this morning's ceremony. I would like to thank Tony Zappone for singing, Ken Lewis for playing the trumpet, and to our piper, David Kaminsky, for being here today, and to all the volunteers who make today possible. And and Jeffrey Brain for the flyover. In case you were wondering, that's a Harvard Mark IV that he was flying. If you're looking for a few activities today to pay respect to our veterans, I would like to invite all of you to the Lethbridge Military Museum. It is open today from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. Admission is free, and all are welcome. The museum is located at the Vimy Armory near the airport. As well, a tradition on Remembrance Day is to mourn the loss of our fallen, but also to celebrate their lives. As such, this afternoon, the Legion and the messes at the 20th Independent Field Battery are open for anyone who would like to attend. I also invite you to explore the veterans banners that hang here on Veterans Avenue and throughout our city. Or make a visit to Mountain View Cemetery on Scenic Drive, which has 4 lots dedicated to men and women from our community who served Canada. These fields of honor are marked with a full-size Canadian flag, and many of the headstones are marked with smaller Canadian flags, which have been placed there by our local cadets. Once again, we invite you to explore the cemetery, the street banners, and the military museum to learn more about the men and women who served our community. And we thank you for being here today to honor the men and women who served our country. Thank you, and have a good day.
Ball out. Sir. Field battery. All right. Do your duties. Attention. Do your duties. Dismiss.
Wide shot back there. Oh, yeah. So that's time for it now. He's having wireless. He's having wireless. Yeah. No issues? There's a problem with battery? Low bandwidth. How many people use the internet?
Al, you don't know me, but I emailed you. I'm Greg Rahobi, Dave's brother.
Oh, hey, I was going to ask Dave
Yeah.
how your freaking those floaters are.
Oh, still bad. Still bad,
You know
unfortunately.
what, I tried the Bilberry crap, then I bought a more expensive brand, but it's not doing
Nothing.
it's useless.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm probably due to get my cataracts removed probably within the next
have a real
year.
close-up
And
of
if it
you.
makes them any worse, I don't know what
Real
I'm going to
close
do.
up of you.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good.
But yeah, that's what they made mine was. You know, I got 20, geez, those things all day.
I don't know. I too, I'm always on the lookout for drops and stuff. And I ordered this stuff from Europe called Cataract Clear, and they contain something that supposedly dissolves the fluid. So I've used them for like a year and a half. So I just went to my optometrist and he said, well, they have help, they haven't heard from you. He says, like so many, just live with it. So.
Dad just retired. His dad went to Thomas, it's right across the tower over here at Norfolk. And he actually got us from Calgary to get his stuff. To the light doctor says,
Oh no, you can put here. I went down to California 2 years ago. There's a procedure called and supposedly this laser zaps them out. I went there twice to get I told my optometrist, he said, don't do it, it doesn't work. And unfortunately, he
Still. Good job, Tony.